Ayutthaya lies about 200 miles south of Sukhothai and about 40 miles north of Bangkok. Surrounded by the rivers Chao Phraya, Pasak and Lopburi, it had been the second capital of Siam from the 14th to the 18th century. In 1378, Sukhothai had become a liege to Ayutthaya. The kings of Ayutthaya reigned for more than 400 years. Wat Yai Chai Mongkhon was erected in the mid-14th century and lies outside the former city walls. Also known as the Venice of the East, Ayutthaya was the world's largest city at around 1700 with about 1 million inhabitants. French, Portuguese, British, Dutch and Japanese merchants had their own quarters on the outskirts of Ayutthaya and reported about the beauties of the Siamese capital. Three royal palaces, 375 temple areas, 94 city gates and 29 forts dominated this fantastic city. Until today, people visit the Viharn Phra Buddha Sai Yat, the reclining Buddha, to meditate and pray. Wat Chai Watthanaram was built by King Prasad Thong in 1630 on the area of his mother's residence. The royal temple symbolizes the Buddhist worldview. In the center rises the big Prang Pratan, symbol of Mount Meru, and it is surrounded by 4 smaller prangs, symbol of the 4 continents, which float in the world ocean. They are the cardinal points, east and west, north and south. The prangs also were burial monuments. Especially popular with Chinese tourists is wearing traditional Thai costumes. After the complete destruction of Ayutthaya by the Burmese army in 1767, the temples were plundered, bricks were sold and the Buddha statues were beheaded. Only in the late 20th century restoration were made. The reclining Buddha, Phra Buddha Sai Yat, is located at the ruins of Wat Lokaya Sutta west of the royal palace. The statue is 42 meters long and 8 meters high. A small altar exists beside it where visitors can make offerings. Many people have covered portions of the image in gold leaf. Wat Phra Sri Sanphet is the most beautiful and biggest temple and also landmark of Ayutthaya. Its three big jetties house the ashes of King Ramatibodi II, his father and his brother of the 15th century. The temple is situated on the area of the old king's palace, the Grand Palace, and was erected in 1492 by King Ramatibodi II. Wat Phra Sri Sanphet, being part of the royal palace, was exclusively used by the Ayutthayan kings. In the early 17th century, 5 Buddha images were ordered to be placed in the temple. Chronicles tell that the first Buddha was beaten out of gold of the purest quality and wore a crown and jeweled bracelets modestly adorned with the 9 gems, while the pedestal was beaten out of gold, engraved and adorned with diamonds and jewels. When Ayutthaya fell in April 1767, the Burmese sacked and burned the monastery to the ground. All but the jetties were completely destroyed. Buddha images were taken away, and from the larger ones the gold was melted. Only one secretly survived and can now be seen in Bangkok. But this story will be told in part 3 of my travel blog about the royal cities of Thailand. The Wihan on the site of Wat Phra Sri Sanphet houses the Phra Mongkhon Bophit, one of the largest bronze Buddhas of Thailand. It was built in 1538 and the total height is 17 meters. During the fall of Ayutthaya, a fire destroyed the vihara and the head and right arm of the image were broken. Chronicles tell, now they lit fires in every vicinity and burned down buildings, houses, hermitages and the holy royal palace enclosure, including the palaces and royal domicile. The light of the conflagration was as bright as the middle of the day. Next to the Wihan, little shops sell their goods.
Getrocknetes Rindfleisch, kandiert mit Sesamkörnern drauf. Super lecker.
In the nearby park area, you can watch the busy Finlayson squirrels. Elephants carry tourists to the next temple we will visit, Wat Mahathat. The history of Wat Mahathat begins around the year 1374. It was one of the 3 main temples in Ayutthaya. In the early 17th century, a Dutch merchant reported, "People say, with the riches under the Buddha statues of Wat Mahathat and Wat Sri Sanphet, completely ruined kingdoms could be restored." Twice the golden tower of Wat Mahathat collapsed under the reign of King Prasatong in the mid-17th century. The central prang with its golden top was more than 50 meters high and survived the destructions of the Burmese army in 1767. But in 1911, the prang finally collapsed and remained in the same state as you can see it today. One of the most photographed pieces and mysteries at Wat Mahathat is the Buddha head embedded in the roots of a banyan tree. Our final destination in Ayutthaya is Wat Phanan Choeng. The Wat, that is a monastery, was founded in 1324 before Ayutthaya became the capital of Siam. The 19 meters high gilded statue dates to the year 1334. It is one of the biggest and oldest statues in Thailand. Legend says that the Buddha, called Luang Poto, cried tears from the holy eyes down to the holy navel shortly before Ayutthaya was destroyed. To the west of the temple, we find a newly renovated monastery. There are many smaller Buddha statues in the north and south Viharn of the temple, some of them in pure gold. Where the Pasak River meets the Chao Phraya, floating down to Bangkok, people are feeding fish. This is quite popular, as in Thai Buddhism it is a form of donation as well as an opportunity to exercise compassion. Just outside the temple walls, there is the small Chinese shrine dedicated to Princess Soi Dok Mak, who strangled herself after King Sai Nam Poeng rejected her. And thus ends our trip to Ayutthaya. We will meet again in Bangkok, Siam's third royal city.